Hello, everyone. I'm Meher Walia, and welcome to Finding Finance, the podcast where we delve into the different subfields of finance. This podcast aims to help high schoolers who are contemplating a career in finance understand the different paths in the world of finance and help them find which path interests them the most. Our esteemed guest today is Bradford Mott. Mr. Mott is a well-renowned property developer, entrepreneur, and a real estate investor with decades of experience. He started his business when he was 22 years old, launching several development companies over the years. He primarily invests in apartment buildings across New York City and Long Island, with over 100 properties and 3,000 apartments. Mr. Mott has a fascinating and inspiring story as to how he started his career in real estate. I hope you enjoy our conversation with Mr. Mott. Mr. Mott, thank you for joining us today. It is a pleasure to have you on the show.
It's my pleasure to be here, man.
All right, let's start at the very beginning. Take me all the way back to your upbringing and give us some insight as to what your life was like when you were younger.
I grew up here on Long Island, the South Shore, in the five towns, USA 5. I went to elementary school in Whitmere, and from there I went to a private school at Lawrence Country Day School. And in 10th grade, I went to boarding school in Kent, Connecticut.
What was that experience of boarding school like?
Boarding school was interesting because it was the first time I was away from home at 15 years old, so you learn to become independent very quickly. You do your own laundry, and basically you're studying quite a bit. In boarding school, it's a very structured environment. It was a very profound experience for me. I think it helped shape me.
Well, what were some of your favorite subjects in school, or some of your favorite hobbies?
My favorite subjects typically were math related. It's the one area where I tended to excel. I didn't do well in many other subjects. Public speaking was also one of my strengths. So anything that was quantitative seemed to interest me, and I usually could rise to the top of those classes. So I tended to favor that. I like the concept of logical thinking, somehow that using logic to solve problems seemed to work for me.
I love math as well. Great subject. My favorite. After high school, you attended NYU and graduated in 1982. What was college like?
Well, first of all, I lived in New York City for the first time, and I liked NYU. Part of what I loved about the school is I was on the soccer team, and I tried out for the soccer team that hadn't won a game in 6 years. They were 0-75, and I remember reading the Washington Square News, which is the school newspaper, and saying, I can make this team. And I can't go to a school that hasn't won a soccer game in 7 years. And so it was my mission to try out for that team, make the team, and reverse that losing record. And that I did. In my junior year, we won game number 1 against Stevens Institute of Technology, and I was on the field and scored the goal that won that game. So it was a very proudful moment for me.
Oh wow, what position did you play?
Striker.
Really? Oh, soccer's my favorite sport. We just finished up our season about a couple of weeks ago, actually. That was my position too.
Is that right?
Yeah.
How did you do?
We won. We were co-champions of Nassau County. So.
I read about that in Newsday. Congratulations.
Oh, thank you so much. Thank you so much. It was once again a great experience and a great sport. So at NYU, what did you study there, and what initially drew you into your field?
Well, I was a marketing major, and most of the courses there were steered towards business. I lived on 14th Street, and I would walk to Washington Square each day where I attended classes. I didn't know what direction I was going to head into in undergraduate school. I just knew business was my thing, and I spent my days contemplating how I was going to make money. I didn't have that answer, but that's all I thought about. How am I going to make money?
So that in mind kept you driven and motivated.
I always felt entrepreneurial on some level, and I always always believed that I could succeed.
Wow, that's incredible. So you do have a pretty remarkable story, starting your business at just 22 years old. Can you tell us how you got involved in real estate?
No, it was somewhat of an accident. I was living 14th Street in a studio apartment on the 6th or 7th floor, I think it was. And I was approached by someone who sent me a letter offering me $5,000 if I moved. And he was looking to buy my insider rights. So the building was being converted to a co-op. And when I was 22, I didn't know what a co-op was. And I didn't know why someone would offer me $5,000. So I was thrilled. My father's advice was to take the money and run. So I ignored his advice. And I figured if I had rights and he was willing to pay $5,000, maybe there's something more here that I'm not seeing. So I educated myself about co-ops and insider rights. And I basically did what he was doing to me. I put notes under all the doors in the building, and I offered to buy the insider rights. No, I offered to sell my rights to anyone who wished to buy them. And sure enough, my next door neighbor rang on the door and said, I'd like to buy your inside rights. We negotiated a price of $27,000.
Wow.
So to me, that was unbelievable. He was having a child, and they were going to break the wall down and create a larger apartment. So he was willing to pay me more. And with that $27,000, I now started a business doing the very thing that the gentleman did with me. I put notes under the doors in the building again, and I offered to buy people's rights because I had $27,000. And I ran back to my apartment, and my answering phone was bleeping, and I got tons of calls, and I ended up buying 3 apartments in that building with the $27,000.
Well, there you go. That's incredible. Starting from that one apartment and then venturing out to so many others.
That's where it started.
What gave you the confidence to keep going from there, even after?
Well, suddenly I was making money. I mean, I got 3 mortgages. I was able to finance the 3 apartments, and I had the money to pay the differential. And I ran an ad in the New York Times for tenants. I rented 3 apartments. I became a landlord at 22 years old. I had 3 tenants, and I had a positive cash flow of about $1,800 a month from those 3 apartments. That was enough inspiration for me to start a business. It was called New York Conversion Real Estate Associates. I printed up stationery, and I started to track buildings that were being converted to co-ops in New York City, Queens. And I did the same thing. I rode my bike to these buildings. I put notes under the doors. I offered to buy their rights. And a business was born.
Wow, that's incredible. You just kept going on your bike, putting notes.
I literally would ride my bicycle to a building. First, I found out in the Attorney General's office downtown, she has a library, which is public information. It tells you all of the buildings being converted to co-op. And I made copies of these buildings. And I had their apartment numbers and what the inside price was. And so I did 1 copy of the letter for each building. I figured out how many apartments were in each building. I made hundreds of copies, stuck it in my backpack, rode my bike to the building, locked it up outside the building, took the elevator up to the top floor, and began placing the notes under each apartment, and then walked down floor by floor until I finished.
That's incredible. That's some hard work into there.
It didn't seem hard.
Must have had some fun going at it.
It was thrilling because, it was generating results, and suddenly I found a business that I knew I could make some money with. It was really thrilling.
Wow. So what did you learn from that first transaction that stuck with you throughout your career?
I would say, what I learned is that if you just pay attention to what's going on around you, anything is possible. You never know. Opportunities are around, and if you just focus, you might see, it may come by you. You have to grab it when it's there. And I think what I took with me, I always knew I had this sort of aggressive, never say die attitude. And so once I saw an opportunity, I pounced on it.
Oh yeah, that's clearly evident. Starting with that, 1 offer, and then venturing out and going after each other apartment and offering, and then going from that 27,000.
Yes.
So let's first understand some of the basics of real estate. What exactly is real estate investing?
Well, real estate investing, I guess we would say, is buying a parcel of land, buying an apartment building, buying a co-op, anything that is tangible. Any building, structure. Um, my my form of real estate investing is apartment buildings. This is what I divested into from the co-op business. I like buying apartment buildings where there are tenants living in there, and the tenants pay rent, and that generates a cash flow. We call that an annuity, a monthly stream of payments. For me, it's a very key component in any business, and it's something you should always strive for, purchasing a business like annuity.
Mm. And what are the main types of real estate investments?
Well, I'm sure there are many different types. Aside from mine buying apartment buildings, I started buying co-ops and condos. You could also buy commercial real estate, which would be, for example, strip malls would be a thing, or you could buy office buildings, which you have businesses that they rent to pay for their office space. You could buy two-family homes or homes and rent out those homes. There's tons of different real estate opportunities out there.
So you did mention condo and co-ops. If you don't mind giving a brief explanation about the difference between the two.
Sure. Well, a condo is that you actually get a deed when you purchase a condo, meaning it's like a home. You have ownership to the walls and the physical unit. In a co-op, you're actually getting shares in a corporation. You don't theoretically own the apartment you're in, but you have shares in the entire building's co-op corporation. Essentially, you have the same thing. You have your space, but the ownership definition is different. In a condo, you have more power in terms of, because you actually own the unit, you have more power to rent it and less restrictions on you. In a co-op, since it's a corporation, there's a board of directors, and they have a lot of power determining what you can and can't do with your shares.
I see. So the main distinct difference is the type of ownership. So condo allows more freedom than co-ops.
I would say that would be the main difference.
So now let's dive deeper into how you grew your footing in the real estate industry. Real estate is often described as both risky and rewarding. How did you manage those early risks?
Well, I never really looked at it as risk. When you're starting out, when you're entrepreneurial, I had to survive. So to me, whatever the risk was, it was a matter of surviving or not surviving. I never really thought that way. I thought in order to succeed, I have to grow, I have to own, I have to buy, and I have to manage what I buy. So I ran my whole shop. And so the idea of taking risk, I said I would have taken any risk because you need to pay your rent and you need to eat. So those driving forces are pretty strong.
All or nothing.
All or nothing is right.
So eventually you started purchasing apartment buildings across Nassau, Suffolk, and Queens. What motivated that shift from tenants' rights to property ownership?
It's a good question. Having run my business for a couple of years buying co-ops and condos, I eventually ran out of money. So I didn't have, and also there was resistance from the co-ops to me as an investor in the building. So some of the co-op boards sued me because they didn't want a guy in there owning 2 or 3 buildings and renting it out. And so that litigation cost me money. And the cost of that litigation made me decide to sell some of those co-ops, especially the ones on 14th Street. And I made a tremendous windfall, hundreds of thousands of dollars back then. And rather than continue in the co-op business, which frankly I wish I had, I would have made a ton of money. But rather than continue in that, I decided to divest into apartment buildings. I thought I would have much more control over that, and I did.
I see. And what was it like scaling from those first few, apartment properties to owning, over 100 buildings today?
Well, it happened very gradually. I started very small with one 6-unit building in Nassau County. And, that's a thrilling moment when you own your first building. And I managed it, I collected the rents. And when you get your first rent from a tenant, it's an exciting day. And when you raise that first rent, it's an exciting day when those rents go up. So I just did it one building at a time. And getting the deal is the victory. Securing a deal, getting a bank to lend you money, to think that a bank would believe in you enough to lend you money is an exciting thing. And a bank will typically lend you 75% of that purchase price. So really, you just need to close the gap with 25% cash in order to secure the deal.
So that small gap allowed you to, purchase and go off from there, really.
Yeah, I had some money now from the co-op, so I methodically built, found a building by building. You have to find the deals too. And I started small, and I kept my head down and just kept buying one by one, and creatively coming up with ways to buy when I didn't have the money. Rarely did I have the money to buy a building, ever, even today.
Oh, wow.
I think you have to be creative in this business, and I think a key message I would send to your listeners is the deals are what happen. Money, the deals follow money. You don't need the money to do the deals. If the deal is good, the money will come. So don't use the absence of money to not do the deal. Most people die right there. I have no money. What am I going to do? I can't do it. That's the way most people think. I think what you have to do is find the deal. And if the deal is good, you will find the money to supplement the deal. I think that's what drives the train. If you can think that way, you open yourself up to a world of opportunity.
That's a great way of thinking about it. How did you find those initial apartments on Nassau, Suffolk? How did you go about finding those?
I think I used to read the newspaper. There was a section in Newsday that buildings for sale. I don't know, even today, I'm not sure. Today, brokers reach out to me, but back then, I read the Times and the Newsday, and I went to the real estate section, and they showed you what was for sale.
Oh, wow. So let's move more towards the present day. What does your typical day entail?
Well, my day today is very different than it has been over the course of my entrepreneurship, 40 years in doing this. I still am a very hands-on owner manager, so I every day drive out to the properties. I don't get to all of them, but I make it my business to drive out and visit the properties, drive by them. I look at the laundry rooms, and I just get a sense of things. So I spend a good portion of my day driving around looking, and also looking at new deals. I spend the morning in my office typically, handling paperwork and handling issues of the day.
While you are very seasoned in this industry, how did your typical day change over your career? So how's that different from maybe 15 or 20 years ago?
Well, let's see, it's a good question. I think because I've achieved a certain level of success today, I live much more comfortably, and I'm not really in fear of not eating and not having a place to live. That's a big change. I think a driving force for me for at least the first 10 years was the fear, maybe even the first 20 years. Fear of failing and fear of not being able to pay bills. And also I had an ambition that was driving me. I'm not sure what I was trying to do, but I had something driving me to succeed. So I really was just focusing on growing. And on some level, I'm still doing it. Even though I don't have to grow anymore, I've sort of fallen in love with the business. And it's actually fun for me to find new deals and try and put new deals together. It's really a fun thing.
Oh, that's great. So it's like a passion for you. You love what you do.
It's shifted from a needing to survive, and suddenly I fell in love with what I was doing.
That's great. More broadly, how has the real estate landscape changed over time?
Well, I've been very specific with regard to what I do in real estate. It's apartment buildings primarily. I do build some because I was getting bored. I built a few buildings, but primarily I buy rental apartment buildings. That's what I've done from the beginning of time, and it's worked for me. So I've stuck to that blueprint.
Yeah. Why change something when it works?
Exactly.
COVID-19 had a large and widespread impact. Office real estate has still not recovered post-COVID due to work from home. What are your thoughts on that?
You know, the real estate market, it swings, left and right. The pendulum swings. It will recover. I'm not in the office business, thankfully, because they really took a big hit. But I think over time, real estate rebounds. And in the long term, real estate is always a good deal, even commercial, and even with the fluctuations in the market. If you think long term, which is what I've done, if you don't sell, which is what I've done, not sell, and you hang on and you manage carefully, you will always do well in this business in the long term, always. And when you make a mistake, it will correct itself in the long term.
So you have to have that long-term mindset.
I think you can't lose with a long-term mindset. And it really doesn't take long-term, believe it or not, in real estate. Even in the shorter term, you're going to do well. But in the long term, you definitely will do well, and very well.
Where do you see that real estate market heading in the next decade overall?
I never really looked that far ahead, to be honest with you. I focus on the world as I see it. I don't really make decisions based upon speculation. I make decisions based upon cash flow and the rental market. And I'm in a market where people need a place to live. It's a strong rental market. And in 40 years, it has been strong. 40 years. And the apartments that I invest in are typically middle income investments, and so I provide housing at a very reasonable rate to people that need places to live. So I have a very unique product that's in demand, and I stick to that. Long term, 10 years down the road, to me, it's just going to be that much better.
Yeah, people are always going to need a place to live. That's not going to change. So demand's there.
Demand's there, and if I look back historically at everything I purchased, the rents that I used to get 20 years ago, 30 years, and then they've climbed astronomically. Rents go up. And so if you hang on and those rents go up, you get the benefits of that.
All appreciates in value.
That's the beauty of real estate, the appreciation.
How do you think technology and AI might impact property investment in the future?
I'm just learning about AI now. So I love how AI writes letters for me and how quickly it thinks. I don't use it at all in terms of my business at the moment. I don't really need help to understand how to do a good deal. I have that down. I know what works. So technology, everyone has a computer and software. So I still in between both worlds. I'm old school and I have computer. So I have a dual system. I still do make entries manually, believe it or not. I can't get rid of it. So I have manual and a computer program. So I have two systems that mirror each other.
And of course, AI can't replace years and years of experience. Anyone can invest in the stock market. Is that the same for real estate? Is there a way for the general public to invest in real estate?
Yes, I would say absolutely. I think you can invest in REITs, these real estate trusts. It's not the way that I would go, but if there's someone who doesn't want to be involved, and I would imagine there are lots of funds, there are real estate funds you can get involved in, and some of them do quite well, get a nice return on the investment. I would say entrepreneurially, there's always opportunity in real estate for anyone.
What are REITs, if you don't mind briefly explaining?
It's a real estate investment trust. It's companies that pool money together, they invest in real estate, and they pay you a rate of return on the cash that you invest in their funds.
What are the key things someone should understand before investing in a property?
Well, I would say you really need to, the things that I focus on when investing in a property are the cash flow. It's very important that the cash flow cover the cost of maintaining the property. So you want to make sure that the money comes in, pays the bills, pays the mortgage, pays the taxes, and hopefully there's something left over called a rate of return. So I would say that is the key thing. That's how I make a business decision. I look at the cash flow, less the expenses, and then I come up with a net operating income. That's always the driving force of a business decision.
I see. And do you see that as a common mistake new investors make?
I don't know. I don't know about new investors and mistakes. I don't know. Can't speak to that. I could speak to situations where I have seen people fail and what I did when I saw that. So, for example, there was a deal I had done maybe 25 years, 30 years ago in Freeport that I saw was boarded up, a good portion of an apartment building. It was owned by a group of doctors. Those doctors hired out a management company to manage it. And for whatever reason, their deal went into foreclosure. My suspicion is they had an outside manager manage it, and from my experience, that shouldn't happen. And I saw an opportunity. So I moved into that, and I gobbled that thing up, and I made the doctor's whole, I made the bank whole, and I looked like the knight in shining armor, and I got rich. So I would say that a mistake might be handing the keys of control to someone else. That deal was a phenomenal deal, and those doctors were sitting there losing money and not really understanding why. Perhaps they didn't have the right person, or to me, giving up that trust of management is a big decision. I would not do that, but sometimes I guess you have to. If you're in another profession, you have to. So that could be a mistake if you don't really trust the guy that's running the show.
That makes a lot of sense. Real estate has significant tax advantages. Do you mind touching on that?
Sure. One of the main advantages, tax advantages in real estate, it's called depreciation. So depreciation is a tax write-off that you get as a result of owning a property. And the theory goes that when you buy a building, the minute after you buy it, it's less valuable than the price you paid for it. Because, let's face it, I mean, the bricks wear down, pipes break, things get old, the building ages. So theoretically, depreciation, it is a real expense. Things become older and they become less valuable. And the structure becomes less valuable. So the way the tax code is written is you get to write off each year a percentage of your purchase price. It's called depreciation. I'm not sure what that is. Maybe it's 1/30th. When I was younger, I knew the number, but you get to write off a very big number. And ultimately, you get to write off the entire cost of that building over a 30-year period. It's a tremendous tax benefit.
Wow, that is a big help. And that theory is sort of like when you buy a car and you take it out of the dealership. The moment you do that, car loses value.
Yeah, I would say that's a very good point, and that's exactly the point I'm making. But unlike the car business, real estate actually appreciates at the same time. A car never appreciates.
That's true.
So it's one rule of thumb I always had is cars and furniture, they do the opposite of real estate, right? So real estate absolutely appreciates over time. Cars will definitively depreciate the minute you pull out and keep depreciating. So your example is right, but the two industries are vastly
very
different.
different.
Yes.
I see. I know the world of business is filled with success stories. Can you tell me about one of your most exciting real estate deals?
I think I started to tell you about one. I've had so many, believe it or not. It's really, but that one really stood out because that deal in Freeport was, I think, the one that launched me. Like what I said, I really hit it kind of big. And the deal was in foreclosure. I just saw the boards up. I made a phone call. I found out who the bank was that held the mortgage, and I called that bank. And they said, "I saw you have a building you have a mortgage on." And they told me the building was in foreclosure. They told me the balance on the mortgage. I found out who the doctors were, and they were represented by somebody. And I called that person, and I told the doctor that I'd be interested in helping the doctors out. And then I found a third party who was involved in financing this transaction, and he was suing the doctors because he was owed $600,000. So what I did was I reached out to the third guy, and I said, "Listen, I will make you whole, and I'll give you $1 million instead of 600,000 if you back me on taking this deal. I need your help to buy the deal. The bank needs, maybe it was $1 million back then. The bank needed $1 million to give me the mortgage." He agreed to fund me to get the bank mortgage. I agreed to give him $1 million over 5 years, and I bailed the doctors out of the litigation. And everybody won, and I got rich.
Wow, that is a great story. You really did pounce on an opportunity presented to you.
I have that deal today, and I drive by it every day, and I pat myself on the back.
Must be a great, great feeling.
It's a good feeling.
How about one deal that made you learn a life lesson?
There was a deal, a very large deal in Nassau County that I bid on, and I won the bid. And I hadn't closed on it yet. And I shared some information with a bureaucrat that worked for a division of housing. And somehow the sharing of that information gave wind of it to another investor. And he stole the deal from me. Even though I was in contract, he came in the back door and stole this deal, which would, in my mind, was worth $10 million profit. It was a very, very painful loss because I shared more information than I should have. But there's a silver lining to this story. This is the lesson. I lost the deal, but I never kept driving by it and looking at it. The loss forced me to find something else to get over the loss. And instead of crying over that loss, I did cry. I went and found another deal in Suffolk County, equally big or bigger, and I bought it. And I ended up doing great from that deal. But I was still angry about the deal that was stolen from me. One day I'm driving by the deal, I'm looking at my iPad, and the deal, 3 years later, is back on the market. And I'm thinking, are you kidding me? The deal that got stolen from me, and it was back on the market $2 million cheaper than I was going to pay for it, years before. And I bought the deal. By the way, I got it back. So the lesson here is sometimes when you lose, you win. And if you hang in there long enough and you pay attention, things come back to you. And you never know. You never know. The loss inspired me to buy another thing. I did great. And then the deal came back on top of that. I ended up winning twice.
Oh, that's great. I guess you just got to look forward always. Keep that mentality of going and looking with optimism.
Yes, that's correct. Never give up.
So on a lighter note, how do you spend your free time? What are some of your favorite hobbies today?
Well, I jog. I try and stay fit. Every day I exercise for an hour and a half. I run, I lift weights, and I bike ride as I did with Coop today. We rode 5 miles together today.
Oh, wow.
So those are things I like to do. I used to love playing beach volleyball, but I'm not playing any longer, but that was a passion of mine for 30 years, competitive beach doubles, beach volleyball.
Oh, wow, that's pretty cool. And 5 miles, that's incredible. So now for the question I ask every guest on my podcast. For kids in high school and college looking to enter the world of finance, what advice would you have?
My advice, and I would say, when you say finance, I'm going to just turn that into business. And I would say, if I could have given advice, or someone could have given advice to me in high school, even in college, for that matter, I would say that believe in yourself. You can do anything that you set your mind to. There's opportunity in this country everywhere. Everyone can get rich, and you can do well. And if you go on your own, you can really do well. Nobody fights harder for your money than you. And if you believe, you can definitely achieve. And the sky is the limit. My advice would be, business is great. This country is spectacular. We live in a great country with opportunity everywhere. And don't believe everything you read in the newspapers. You know, opportunities out there. I would say go into business, and I would even say go into real estate, because in the long term, everyone does well in real estate. If you can get in, you should.
Well, you're the model example of such a great entrepreneur and what you say believe to achieve. Thank you so much for sharing your remarkable story. It was very inspiring and giving us such great advice. Thank you for being on the show.
You're very welcome. Thank you for doing it. It was nice.
Thank you for listening.